Thank you for tuning in to 5-Star Tips, where advisors can hear time-tested methods and proven strategies that top practices are using to achieve exceptional and sustainable success. We invite you to listen, take notes, and apply these methods to your practice today to generate better results tomorrow. Your host, Ken Unger, is the founder of the Academy of Preferred Financial Advisors. Ken is the industry's leading coach and trainer for mid to high-level financial advisors with almost 40 years of industry experience. Ken has trained more high-level success stories than any other coach. Ken is a thought leader for advisors who are looking to grow and run the industry's top client-centric practices. If you are ready to take your practice to the next level, stay tuned.
Welcome to today's podcast, 5-Star Tips, a podcast for financial advisors. My name is Ken Unger, the leading coach for mid to high-level financial advisors. I'm your host today, and boy, are we in for a treat. Today, we have with us Chris Doughty of Gentian Financial. Chris is perhaps one of the finest examples of a financial advisor success story you're ever going to see. Chris is a 20-plus year veteran managing nearly $400 million. He's award-winning, acknowledged by Forbes as one of the best advisors in the country. He's everything a client would want in a financial advisor and a financial advisor would want as a role model. Chris, as I mentioned, has been in the business for over 20 years. I've had the great pleasure and luxury of partnering with Chris. He's been in our coaching program for nearly 18 years, where we've seen Chris's business grow more than tenfold. Why? Because Chris is client-centric. He puts clients first, just like you. Because Chris is holistic. He really cares about these people. He does a deep dive into what people want, what people need. Chris's skill set is amazing. He's continually coming to sessions like ours to grow that skill set so that he can totally understand relevant tax strategies. He can totally understand what can really help clients at the best levels. Chris is, as I mentioned, everything you'd want in an advisor. He's also somebody who lives a great balanced life, a family man. He's perhaps one of the finest people I know, so we're in for a special treat today. Chris, are you with me?
I am, Ken. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all the great love, and I really appreciate everything that you said. And you say that, and I kind of think, man, I wish I knew that guy.
Chris, one of the things I love about you is, people always ask me, how do you deliver that wow experience? Every time I interact or meet with you, I get that wow experience. Tell me a little bit about, Chris, I know, something, we can get into your production, we can get into all the things. Where does your passion come from, Chris? I know you love helping people, do you not?
I do, yeah. So one thing I've always found is it's been the business. I'm in the people business. It just happens to be in the financial services. And I think that some of the difference in passion and focus is what do we really have in this life? If you're blessed with finance or blessed with whatever you are, is it a passion to be helping somebody else? And for me, that passion is contributing to somebody else's and another family's life, simplifying their life, helping their child go to college. The myriad of different things we do. And that excites me every day. It's something I can wake up every day if I was paid for it or not paid for it, to really go out and say, can you in some way contribute to the betterment of someone else's family's life or their life individually? We're so blessed that people will share close enough information and family information that we can help them with that. It's really my contribution is how can we help families of people better themselves?
Chris, something I want to start also with is, when I take a look at the remarkable accomplishments that you've been able to achieve, wow. I mean, it just, the numbers jump off the page, just, how many people you help jumps off the page. Tell me a little bit about your business. I mean, what type of person do you deal with?
Sure. I'd say what's interesting is when I first began in the business years ago, we dealt with anybody who had money, kind of like it was pretty consistent, but actually very quickly, I think even through meeting with yourselves very early on, probably 18, 19 years ago, we began to define, why don't we go to places of people that we want to do business with in the future? And at that time, it was, a couple of $100,000, rollovers, the different ideas, complex situations where we could really help and make a difference. But today, I would say it's families who, and the individual walking in, is probably somebody who's owned a business, somebody who has left a major employer. I mean, it has between $500,000 to probably $7 to $8 and $10, $12 million we've been receiving, as families lately, which is great. I'm less concerned with the dollars, more concerned with the person, and can we help them? Do they have the right mindset? Can we be symbiotic, or is it going to be a struggle? So we're really looking to say we need the right mindset so that we can have what I believe is our own kind of utopia, if you will. We're building it, and we want the right people on our arc, if you will. So as we look at it, we're really looking for the person, and I look for the same thing in my team. I'm looking for people that people like, and the same thing with the people that we're looking for clients. So it's a fairly stringent evaluation, and there's some people who are qualified highly, but I'm looking for that, maybe 65. A lot of times now it's clients' children who are 45 to 50 beginning to really build this, retirement type aspect. But it's people that we know we can help and people that we can add value to and that are open to it. Not the know-it-all who knows everything about it, but really it's the right mindset and the right family.
Well, and Chris, you mentioned your team, and I know you have a great team in place. Let's dial the clock back. I know when I first met you, it was pretty much you, and you had some sort of, I don't know if remember it was part-time or full-time, but you had somebody helping you, just, somebody doing some clerical work. But it was pretty much the Chris Doughty show. And like most businesses, let's talk about how has your team evolved over the years? How many people do you have on the team right now?
That's a good question. Right now I have 9 people on my team and probably growing as we identify more positions and more people who will be unique to that ability. But when we first started, it was a great question. I first came out, and I remember that very first meeting, I took more notes than anybody ever taken their whole life and thinking, I'm going to implement 100 things. Thing is, when I got back, it was me implementing them all because I had a part-time assistant between a partner and I. It was like, oh my goodness, it's part-time assistant who barely could function on the ideas of what we just had going on at the time and just doing the business. So really what I realized very quickly is we need to find and get to a point where we could have people doing the work that we needed done while we could be seeing clients and prospecting and doing growth. So over time, we've been very intentional through Ken, through a lot of conversations about it, just through a lot of understanding, reading with other advisors as well, saying, listen, hey, how might we do this? And I could always pass it by you and you'd be very extremely helpful. Well, we tried that before. You might want to have this instead, or this kind of person, or maybe this role, or when you have this person, have them call me, or let's go through this. So it's been a lot of building that. But what we've always focused on, and Ken and I've had these conversations, is number one is the person. If it's a great person, we can teach them the rest. You can't hire a wildly qualified person that people don't like and fit them into the mold. That just, it blows up. And Ken, you've had all the experience in helping us with the wisdom over time on that.
Well, and Chris, I know something that you've created too is repeatable systems. I mean, scalable, repeatable systems. Yeah. And those are paramount, as you know, to success for all talented people like yourself. Let's get into some of the specifics of those systems. I know early on, one of the challenges we gave to you, which we do to everyone who joins, is can you define the services that you want to offer?
Yeah.
You talked about not just finding your audience, but what services do you want to offer, and how do we set up specific services that make you not just an expert, but like you said, unique in that area? So
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's a good point. And so one of the most important things when we first came is I learned a couple of statements. SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, which is a great thing because what it does, basically, if you take Tom Gow, I could probably just I could just paraphrase him on some of these things. And Ken Unger would say this, I could paraphrase Ken Unger on these things, and I used to use a lot of that. But the cool thing is once you start to integrate that into your unique personal abilities to do that, it really becomes where I think the two come together as something that maybe can provide some magic. But for myself, the standard operating procedures and really what I offer and culling it down. For instance, a lot of people think they offer investments, and investments are what they do. And it was really early on apparent that, everybody's got their own opinion on investment. So what we decided, one of the most important things to do was financial planning, whole person planning, tax planning. And you really helped us craft a lot of that. And I think through this over time, the success of the practice has been in being a holistic practice. So, when a client comes in, we want to make sure the experience from a prospect to a 20-year client has a procedure. Okay, when this occurs, here's what we want to do. When this client comes in, it's a GTK, it's a get to know. When this person comes in, we got, these questions we really want to understand. And then ask them, the very first question when I sit down with people is say, how can I help you? Used to be all these sophisticated questions, but that's the very first question I ask because what I've learned is one of the most important things. The first thing you have to do is meet somebody where they are. You can't just jump into your own stuff because they're not concerned with that. You need to meet them where they are. And by doing that, then the meeting becomes exactly what they need versus what you need to pontificate. I think in the past, I used to try to prove how smart I was. I'm so this is really sophisticated stuff, and I realized I'm just espousing stuff to make myself think that I'm smart. And the clients and prospects were kind of like, well, that's interesting. But really what I wanted to know is, will I be able to afford to retire? Will my kids be able to go to school? Will there be something left? Will I be able to da-da-da-da? What do I do in market corrections? So we very quickly started putting procedures and education around that. We started holding investor education forums probably 19 years ago or so, or 18 years ago. And we've had at least 2 every year since, sometimes 3. Now I'm going to be up to 4 a year, which are really opportunities for us. And it's a process around investor education. So when we hit market corrections, the average advisor may get a ton of phone calls. We're investing, 50, 100 different programs on what should I be doing now? What might be coming? Let's prepare you for it. Because when it gets here, you're going to want to take advantage of some certain items, but you're not going to want the market to be dictating the action you take. So in a negative form. So media bias, be careful in media. You've shown us a ton of media, which is awesome, which is be careful around that. So really crafting that educational message is important. And then crafting the experience. Probably the most important thing, Ken, to WOW is experience. And that's where sharing a lot of it in APFA has been fantastic, because we get to share with other advisors what's working. That's fantastic. That's my personality. And somebody may be doing a horse rodeo show or whatever, and that's their personality. Somebody's doing golf, that's personality. Find the one that's yours. I find the wow really becomes when somebody mentions something like they're going to go to Italy for their 50th wedding anniversary, and one of my team members will do something. They automatically know there's a cue to that, which is go back, find a photos book on Italy, find some photos of it, find some great place in Italy or something, and let's get that to them saying, listen, we were listening, we care, but showing them that we care, not just telling them. So those are the wows, I think, and those are the systems around, even systems around service and wow are very important for us to recognize. What's that cue? A client has a dog that's been their child. We get an artist to draw a picture of that dog, and we frame that up for them. And I had a client who my daughters and I delivered this to, and there were tears, both me, my daughters, my client, about this incredible, animal member of the family they had. That wasn't really an intention to go, look, we created wow. It's just, hey, listen, we care and we want to show you that. And we're going to take some steps beyond maybe what most people do. We value and we cherish that. So anyway, that's maybe just a little long-winded answer to your question, but the procedures are really down to everything. I never thought of it that way in the past, but systems are critical. And that's, I think, where the most important system you started was we meet clients at least twice a year. We used to meet them once a quarter. Why is that important? Because you start to build relationship. You see them, you're part of their lives. It used to be before that, 15 or 25, 30 years, people would just go, well, if they need to do something, we'll meet them. And it was just a massive shift. So that's a huge one, too, in starting the process and system.
Chris, I know, one of the things we stress in our programs are systems. And you've set up a very disciplined system of offering holistic advice, clients' interest first, providing superior service, and also stressing within your clients what you live, which is a balanced and healthy life. But before we get into, some of the other things, I just want to ask you a question I think I know the answer to.
Yes.
No, I know the answer to is, how do you use tax planning as a proactive service to separate yourself from other advisors? Because, most people, as you said, focus on investments. I know you use tax planning as a very proactive way to separate yourself.
Yeah, we do. So, for instance, I can almost read this as a quote from you guys. It's fantastic, but it's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts. We've had this as just, born into our soul, which is true if you think about it, and you take inflation into account. If you get an 8%, and I've said this to clients, if you get an 8% return, what do you think of that? Well, I think it's great. What if you get an 8% return and you only get to keep 4 versus having an 8% return and keeping 6? Well, that's a little bit of a difference. No, it's a huge difference. Once you take off inflation, 4% inflation would mean your first return is 0, where your second return is 2 net. Like, oh, wait, I never thought of it that way. But by taxes, you're starting to show these little tiny innuendos. What I don't want to do is show somebody how smart I am by telling them. What you can do is you can decipher through tax. And that's like, I think, Tom, Ken, both of you have said this. Your tax form is my Bible. I can read it. We can go back. We can look at it. And I think you've taught us that, which is great. And, brought in great resources for it. And then what we do with that is, listen, I noticed you've got a couple of things here. How about this? How about you like net unrealized appreciation planning? You've got this big offset here. Why don't we do a massive Roth conversion so you don't have a negative income? Just opportunities exist. And once you start to show the little differences of like Medicaid planning, Medicare planning, income planning that goes with it, going, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And then you dollarize it. And that's another one you gave us that was very important too for systems. Dollarize it. Don't give me a percentage, because people don't understand the percentage. They get the dollarized. You're going to save about, $225,000 in your lifetime on this idea if we do it.
Chris, I was sitting with another one of our veterans, someone who you know very well in our room. And I think about 6 times he said something that it's going to make you chuckle, because I'm sure you've said this about 6 million times. He said, I don't care who prepares your taxes. I just want to reduce them.
Yes.
Have you ever found yourself saying that to a prospect or client?
100%. Yeah. So I have no interest in doing your taxes. That's a scorekeeper. That's, but I want to make sure that you pay less in taxes. That's absolutely the key. And I think another one too, you said, I think you gave me the idea. There's two different types. You can evade taxes and you can avoid taxes. And the difference is 8 years in the Gray Bar Hotel.
That's correct, so, Chris.
Yeah, we want to avoid them, not evade them. So I agree with you 100%.
Chris, I love your enthusiasm with taxes. Let's shift gears and talk about your powerful system for marketing, because I know one of the things you gravitated to right away was you understood the need for setting up a 12-month calendar, for having activity,
yes,
for not just having goals, because I applaud the fact that up to almost $400 million, obviously you set goals. I know you like to set some high goals, but you also set not just goals, but you set systems in place from a marketing standpoint. Let's talk a little bit about that. How robust is your marketing?
Yeah, it's a good question. So a lot of what we do is, if you look at setting massive, huge goals and you're starting from zero, you got to be careful because it's going to look so daunting. You're going to look like you're trying to climb, the Matterhorn in Switzerland without a crampon and no pickaxe and everything as well. So you got to be careful. The first thing you do to climbing any mountain or all is you take a step. So what's that first step? I've never marketed in my whole life. Well, what are you going to do? We decided, okay, let's hold a seminar. Let's do the seminar. Let's do some, and I think you gave us some great systems on how we might do that. But then we began seminars. And do I want to do seminars in the public or do I want to do seminars at targeted corporations? We chose targeted corporations out of some ideas that we'd seen before. So we looked at some different systems. We tend to be fairly pragmatic about it. And then we had a shoestring budget. So we decided, not maybe by necessity, we had to do something that we felt, okay, well, let's go. And how much does it cost us to do a corporate seminar when they sponsor it? $0. It's our time. Perfect. That's a good budget for us. Now, others might have more money and can do it other ways. I know some of the people in our program can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and they do great. But what we chose to do is, what is the most meaningful use of our time right now? So what we try to do is, let's continually try to inch forward to our plan and our goal. And ours is through robust investment in our clients, through robust investment in, first, when we had no clients, prospects, and what do they want. We spent a ton of time deciphering what they wanted and needed, and only give them that. We're not going to give them crap that we think they need. Sorry about that language, but we're going to give them stuff that they want. So in putting this all together, we have developed systems, and then we, adapt. We're pretty decent at giving some, we've been told anyway, about giving client education seminars. We do edutainment. That was a big part of what we've done, education and entertainment. So we developed a system around that to say, listen, I want to educate you, entertain you, and then bring you topics you didn't know were actually pertinent to you. Today, that's more from just straight data and financial planning and retirement to 3 keys, really. And there's actually going to be 4 keys to it. But teaching people in forums around different items such as health, your mind, and also in retirement and planning, family and meaning. There's very, very important pieces now that are coming in because that's what all this is for. So as we focus more on that, the message has really sunk in. But we've really been our marketing has morphed from what most people would think of marketing to being intentional about spending time educating and making contribution to both clients, our centers of influence, and bringing them what they want and need rather than we hope they want and need, which is, maybe how smart we are, bringing a tax seminar about how it pertains to them, what's in it for them. And that's really the key for it as well. And I think, let me make one statement here. You at APFA has always given us a great, great statement too. And I think I learned this from, Dr. Moyne from you, probably 17, 18 years ago. When I first came, you said, your words can make you rich. And you know that, right? And I've probably said this 10,000 times. But what I have morphed that into, and you guys over time, we've morphed this into, and this is what's really, really keyed me up and I think helped me make this contribution is your words. And this was so powerful. This switch was your words can make others rich. That excites me. When I can do something inspirational, the way we say it, how we say it, you can craft it well so that others can realize their own greatness. That's where the power in the exponential occurs. Once you're passionate about that, once you're contributing and people can sense you're genuinely contributing to them, and if something happens for you or something doesn't happen for you in compensation or relationship, if you can operate on that what I call highest level of gratitude, you're going to see a ton come to you. So we operate our marketing saying we're going to contribute to the world in our best possible. We're going to give away free books on retirement. We're going to do podcasts on retirement. We're going to do da-da-da. And here's how to retire. Here's some great things to help you in life. And if we give enough away, you're going to find everything that our team ever needs on the finance side. It'll all come in good faith. But that's how we operate for marketing. I guess I didn't give you exact specifics. I don't have time to, but the robust systems around how we do that. For instance, my calendar now is, I think, out maybe 18 to 24 months, 12, like we've talked about, set, and then 24 about approximate dates because of coming to APFA and others. I want to make sure that those are particular in what we have. Those are my chance to sharpen the saw. So our marketing has to fit around those as well and some other programs we do So we have to set those out a long time. So people ask me, hey, next year, January, do you want to do this? Well, I'm sorry, that's been scheduled for about a year and a half, so I can't, but that's essential. So,
Chris, one of the things I love about you is you use what we call the placeholder system, which is, as we talk about, you have a placeholder. You say, I'm going to do an educational event, where so many people get fixated on, like, what will be the title? Who cares?
Yeah.
2 months before, when we send out the invitations, that's when we need a title. But you have a placeholder. It's funny, Chris, as I talk with you and I think back, I remember when we first got together to put together your first 12-month plan.
Yeah.
We like to say, what percentage do you think you can grow organically versus outside? And you were mostly in that outside box because you came with a very small business.
It is, yeah.
With unbelievable skill set, unbelievable education. You got the CFP, we didn't. You've got all the credentials you need. You have the enthusiasm. You have the drive and the desire, but we needed clients. So we mostly filled that outside box. And now as I look at your box, I remember you saying, someday I'm going to get to that organic box. As you said, you get a ton of referrals, you get organic, you get to hold these educational sessions where your clients get to bring their friends and introduce you to others. And you deserve it, Chris. Let me just shift gears and ask another question I think would help our audience. Time wasters, Chris. One of the things we talk about is always, the best way to learn is learn from other people's mistakes and avoid them yourself.
Yes.
What would you say was a big time waster for you that you could share with our audience as you look back?
So I want to make a couple of interesting pieces. Now, there were things at the time that weren't time wasters that I realized they are now, as I've kind of realized and gained some insight and wisdom on that over time. I think research on investments where I was doing it myself versus using proxies to doing it, like you at APFA, Morningstar, other things, where I used to spend a lot of time thinking I was smart doing it. And then you look at the results going, wow, there's people who are better at this than I do. Why don't I use them in this sense? Because we can use those. And people who are timeless versus timed. I used to think that I was really smart versus the time of a great manager. I think you and I were talking about that. Mm-hmm. If somebody has a propensity to be great at what they do and they've shown it over a very long period of time, they probably will continue to be. Especially if it's a team approach. So things like that were time wasters. Also, conversations with advisors who were very well-meaning but really didn't have a lot to add to a scenario other than they wanted to be smarter than you were. Those were things that I really attempted to avoid quite a bit as well. The media really is not very helpful once you look at it. You want to look at wisdom, not today's knowledge, because that changes super quick. Politics, to me, obviously is one of those things, too. I just didn't spend a whole lot of time in it. I know a general idea what's going on. So I would say media is big, and something we've gotten rid of. One thing we're found, I've got some decent skills in a couple of areas, and those are the things that we've isolated for me. The less I can do in other areas, the less administrative I can do. And I've got team members who handle the marketing, the client experience. Peter is my critical internal. I've got Ashley is my director of client experience. Lisa is my operations director. We've got Julie who helps her. We've got Ken running a client service. We've got Zach who's running client service as well. So the less we can find for my role, the more I can be about thought leadership. And this is what I've noticed: thought leadership, connecting, and bringing value from programs like you guys, where I can come back, really think about them and say, how can we add that? What is that going to do for a client? Ken brought this in, Bob Keither brought this in, you brought us through this program that we, at APFA. How can we use that in our clients' lives? So for us, that has really been a very major part of how we craft our program and how we stay passionate about it. So the less I can do, the more intentional I can do. Getting rid, like for instance, here's one thing, and I'll make this statement. So I came back and I drew kind of an A, B, and C line. There's an A line of things that I really don't like doing. So I flipped it around. C are things that I really don't want to do. B, things I'm okay with. A, things are my prime thing. I could do them all the time. So one of those things was I was never going to do notes in a meeting. I used to type notes in a meeting. I used to write the notes out after a meeting. So I always have an assistant in every single meeting taking notes, so I can be 100% focused on the present with the client that I'm sitting in front of. That's one. So a big time waster was to redo the notes. Another time waster is emails. I get 285, 295, maybe 300 emails a day. So now I have somebody screen those ahead of time. So if it's intentional with the client, it's probably going to Peter or somebody else anyway. So they screen those emails. So the time wasters, I'm actually looking, read a good book, Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and what is essential to what I'm doing? What is most important now is the question I'm asking most often. So it's refined consistently. The better you can get, it's almost the less you do. But you're really, really good at what you do. So that's kind of where I'm moving toward, if you will. And that's the journey that we've had. That's the amazing thing. And that's why I'm building this team. They love it. They're great at it. Let that be their best, unique ability. So that's how we're working on that piece.
Well, and Chris, as you know, we stress heavily at our program, delegation, delegation, delegation.
Yeah.
Teaching and helping others to act on your behalf. And as you know, one of my mentors, I've said this for the entire almost 20 years that I know you. You know, one of my mentors used to always tell me there's a 20-10 rule, Ken. For every 10% of things that you give to a capable person, they'll get you a 20% return on.
Absolutely, you have.
You know, and that's one of the things that you've magnified by giving to multiple peoples. And I'm so proud of you. Chris, can you talk a little bit about, you've been in our group for a long time. How has the community of our group helped you? I mean, you know, do you find like-minded people like yourself? You know,
absolutely.
What would you say to someone who asked you about the quality of person in that room, or the person, you know, are you just an anomaly, or the only success story? Talk a little bit. I know you've developed so many good friendships in that room. Can you share with others a little bit about the community we have? Yeah,
the community is probably one of the most powerful things. The content's fantastic. The key is, it's not just content. Content means absolutely nothing in absence of facilitating how to use it. Now, the cool thing about that, what you facilitate, is the ability for people across firms, across the industry, to get together and to talk about items that are extremely important to them and how they may be attacking those from different broker-dealers, from different broker-dealer channels. I used to be in a captive channel years ago, but we were very independent in it right away. So we had a phenomenal a relationship, but we always knew if something occurred there, how we could move to maybe another firm that was independent. And so even talking with people about that is fantastic. But I think the key is, there's some of the different participants who are, top advisors, I'm sure you'll do podcasts on as well, that I see as top advisors. And what's interesting is I'm in a bunch of advisor groups, even at my firm. We're in this great group called Chairman's Council and a Wealth Advisor Network. It's called a group we've got here of advisors who are really intentional about this stuff. And what's interesting is they come to me with stuff like, hey, I got this, I got that, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And that's awesome. But what I find is, I've got people who I know at the top of the industry in this category. So what's interesting is I've always got a resource I can jump back to and tap. And these people are very open to say, hey, listen, I have a quick question for you, because they know their contribution in answering my question. Anytime they have a question for me, it's the same kind of thing. So I'll call Ken, I'll call so-and-so, I'll call another advisor. And really what happens is you start to get to, and you share, and for me, the sharing, the celebration, and the success of these other advisors. I can care less if they're all way bigger than me, all way better. I love it. I love seeing these people, great quality, high people. And what's cool too is that what you have found is generally if there's somebody who's a bit unsavory, they're not in the program, and that's intentional, which is great. You screen them really, really very well. So I have found very few stinkers, if you will, in there. So it's a safe environment to share. It's a safe environment to come into, and it's really a great community. And this, what I tell we're creating here at Gentian Financial is community. What you've created at APFA is community. Both many of us have been there for a long time, and we see each other at other events, and hey, how you doing? Love each other. And you've got a history of each other together. And you facilitate as a great chance for us to foster and build that community. So I think it's awesome. That's a huge part of what we do too.
Chris, can I shift gears also on you to something that I think you've mastered, and so have most people in the room? I know we're about to head into a session in a couple of weeks for participants, and we give them a grade on, we ask them to rate your practice. And one of the things that I give a lot of points for is, life balance, because I personally believe in a balanced life. My family really very high priority for me, personal time. I enjoy my personal time. A lot of people tell me I don't want to possibly, work as hard as Chris. He's working so hard to, look at you. Numbers are exploding. Your people you're helping exploding. Can you talk to me a little bit about, are you able? And I know the answer. I know you get great life balance. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? What's your life balance look like?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in this category. So what I thought and what I saw were two different things. I've seen people who work their tail off. I mean, literally killing themselves to do what we're doing, because here's the trouble with this business. If you have an addictive personality, which a lot of people in our business do, that addiction can literally drive you to death. And I've seen this from some advisors. So the beautiful thing too in this is you get to learn and see from that. It doesn't have to be that way. So for instance, I've struck a life balance where I've never done an appointment on a Saturday, a Sunday, and rarely, if ever, anything after 5 o'clock for my entire career. So I've been able to keep those bounds on it, because I said, listen, my physician isn't going to call me and say, hey, listen, I got an appointment available on a Sunday. You want to try that? I mean, all of a sudden, you know how that perception goes. So what I found is that to be very, very, succinct in this, and I've got 4 keys for myself, and I weigh a lot of what I have against. I've got faith, family, health, and my business family. And if something that enters my life doesn't really agree to one of those, then it's very easy for me to say no. And what I realized, every time you say yes, you're saying no to 100 things. So for me, it's being very intentional when I say yes, to be pragmatic about it, because like you said, Ken, you and I have a lot of conversations about family and life balance. As I've grown, I've hired this team to help me also have a balanced life. And here's a couple of things. I think Jeff Bezos said it, and I learned it from several others, which is Gentian benefits tremendously from me getting 8 hours of sleep, exercising 45 minutes to an hour a day, and being intentional about reading and inspiration and wisdom. I know that when I show up well exercised and well rested, I know that what I contribute that day is worth a whole week's worth of work just even on that day. Where if I came in, slept 3 hours, read 100 books, really tired, really wearing out, it'll take me a whole week just to make up what I need to do in that 8 hours. So I think that work-life balance is a misnomer. And remember, you have to set those limits on yourself and make sure that when you're there, you're not checking the internet, you're not doing all this stuff that's unimportant. It's about clients, contribution, it's about being intentional. What's your best use of your time now? And building a team that helps you understand that. More importantly, also looking at that team to ask them what's important to them and helping both of you co-create it, letting them be owners. That's the biggest thing we try to find. So community, environment, those are extremely important. People know in my firm what's important to me and my priorities. So just the other day, Peter, I had a basketball game for my daughter. This is my last story, but I had a basketball game for my daughter, which I hadn't put on the schedule. I hadn't seen one of them yet this year. She had two. I'm like, oh man, canceled and rescheduled 2 appointments of mine without me saying a word. Once I mentioned that game was on there, rescheduled both so that I could make it to that game. And my daughter had no idea it was going to be there. Surprised the heck out of me, but I'm one of the parents that wants to just be present. I don't care if she plays, doesn't play, if she's a star, it doesn't matter. I just appreciate being there and being in that environment. So my team creates that for me, understanding my priorities. So they have stepped way out, and I give a ton of credit to them for being a caring, great team too. So a lot of my success, I may be the person standing on the podium or whatever it is, but I make it very, very quickly to understand there's 440 clients who are the reason that I'm there. There's 9 team members who are there. There's my family who is there. I simply be the one that has to accept the prize for all of them, humbly and graciously. That's what it's about. That's how we operate.
Chris, you certainly are dynamic. You've built a thriving business. You're very inspiring and motivational. And I know a lot of the people that are listening to this just are imagining, like you did when you first joined us. How could I do this? How could I build a practice like Chris's? How can I build a lifestyle like Chris's? What advice would you give to others to grow a practice like yours? What would you say to yourself 15, 18, 19 years ago? What would be some of the best advice, most practical advice you'd give them to build a practice like yours or to get a lifestyle like yours?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what I would do, the biggest thing, if I was going back to myself, so I'm 48 today, if I was going back to, 25-year-old me when I started in the business, let's call it, what would I do? What would I say? I would say persevere, be intentional about a plan. So here's the one thing. If you set a vacation and you're like an airline pilot, well, I'm going to go to fly to Nashville. You take off from Milwaukee, which is where I live, and 97% of the time you're off course. But what happens is you course correct 95 times, and all of a sudden you land at the airport in Nashville. Now, it's exactly the same thing, but you've got to set aside time to be intentional about the business, working on the business, not in it. I think that's one of the more important things. And then listen to people who are smarter than you. Humble yourself and get out of the idea that you're the smartest person in the room in the world to say, hey, listen to people who are smarter than you and listen to the different ideas that people have, and then incorporate what's true and authentic to you. If it's not authentic to you, people will notice it, they'll see it. I'm not going to go out there and be the crazy, flashy so-and-so who's this great advisor who's great at it, or this one over here who's the technical expert on tax, but I can be some morphing of them and maybe a decent communicator and maybe, on the human side of the equation and maybe some emotional, intelligence, and I'll put those things together. That's my unique aspect to it. So the key with it is go back, be intentional about it, look at where you are and start where you are. Listen, I'm started with, myself and a half of assistant and a business partner. And we put a lot of ideas together, and guess what? Add this, do this, and had to take a step back once in a while. This occurs, that occurs, but be intentional about taking small steps every day. They don't have to be big bounds. You don't have to go, I got to go win $1 million account every day, but small steps to get you on a continual path to where you want to be. And here's the interesting piece. I'm always chasing a horizon, but I'm extremely very fortunate at where I am. So the horizon is this. I will never reach to where I want to be because I'm a lifelong learner. I'm an avid learner. I will never learn enough. The more that occurs in, quote, success, the more I understand I don't know. The more I don't know all the answers, the more I understand that, the most positive position for me or the most powerful is to say, I don't know. Let me find that answer. And I'm always learning. Those are kind of the keys I think I find. If you're open to that, starting at, I think when I started with you guys, I was doing maybe $250,000 in production or so, 260. We're probably going to press 320 or 330 this year, 3.2 or 3.3. I remember having a conversation in a room, a little bit of an arrogant young guy being me, standing with two guys and saying, well, what I want to do is I want to work 24 hours a week. I want to do $2.5 million production. I want to da-da-da-da. And I'm espousing this thing, being a little bit of a younger, arrogant guy at the time, which I really try to shy away from now. I was making these statements, and one of my friends who's still in the program here now, Todd, the one guy said, oh, yeah, me too. I'd like to do that. And my friend Todd goes, so what about you? He goes, that's what I do. I always remember how humble he was in the fact that he didn't, say, hey, you're kind of being arrogant. He said, oh, that's just what I do. Very kind, so it was really cool to see the humbleness, the kindness, and see, wow, I could get there and I don't have to be this young, so-and-so about it. So really seeing some of the models of the people you'll see in there that really match your style too is awesome. And those create some lifelong friendships, in mentors. So, with yourself, Tom, others. They're mentors in this, and I think it's a very cool piece about it too. So look at that, be who you should be who you are intentional to yourself. But, you don't have to get there all in one day. I mean, hell, it's 18 years later, we're up 10 times. So what's my goal? I don't really have a goal that I'm like, I got to do this, but we'll probably go up 10 times again. How we do it, I don't know. For 10 times the contribution, it'll happen. But we're going to be really, strategic about what we're adding to clients' lives. I know the rest will occur.
Chris, I'm proud that you're a lifelong learner. I'm proud that you've done your lifelong learning with us. I know, like many others, and we've got 300 of you that are part of our core group that come back year after year after year. You've invested time, you've invested resources like your cash, your money. Like Dad used to always say, put your money where your mouth is. But more importantly, each and every year, as we put together your specific operating plan, I know you follow this one mantra that I'm so proud of. You always put client first. You always put your clients first. You put those people that you've endeared yourself to. You honor and respect the fact that you've committed to these people and you put your clients first. And the interesting thing is, people ask me all the time, how do I take my business to this level? How do I take it? I say, well, let's start by putting your client first. As you know, put your clients first, and then let's take your business to the next level. And the interesting thing is, Chris, you're once again, just another one of those fantastic stories of someone who put their clients first, took their business to a new level. Where are you going with this, Chris? I know for the next 2 decades, you're not done. You'll see at least 10 to 20-fold more increase. Your skill level. People are proud to have you. I've seen some of the portfolios you put together. I've seen some of the solutions you provide on the tax and estate planning side. You've done some phenomenal things. Your personal philanthropy, unequaled. So, Chris, I thank you. I thank you for giving your time today to others. I thank you for being a host with me, a co-host. And I thank you for being a lifetime learner with us.
Well, Ken, thank you. I want to thank you as well for all the contributions you guys have had to us and really the base understanding of how we should do the business. It's not just what you do, it's also how to do it and who to do that with. And there's so much base fundamental to it. It's funny. I think a lot of people will go, I've heard that before. I've done that before. I appreciate it every time I come and learn even some basic statement, but basic, quote, some basic, that's a good point. Look at it this way from this perspective, or look at the NYC2. There's always something that you'll get. I don't care how old you are, but you got to come in with an open mind to it. And that's the one thing I think that you guys have really, really offered is a consistent value proposition. I call it just the basis of it. There may be other programs out there, of course, but when it comes to the base of not just what to do, but how to do it by people who've really been in the business, that's where you've really made a big difference. And the success that you see here, I share with you guys as well. It's a very, very important piece. You guys are some of the base of this. I can't say that I might have done decent at this, but you never know. The path I've been on has included you as a core piece of how I operate. And I think that's just an extremely important. So to me, one of the most important things I think that I haven't even said here is gratitude. I am eternally grateful and grateful in the sense of your time, your commitment, your, praise. I think those are all wonderful. And I really, really appreciate those kind of things, but grateful for what you do and your continued commitment to this as well, to this pro. You don't have to do it. You guys could, retire and move on, but your commitment to us, just like our commitment to our clients. So it's almost your commitment even to our clients also is humbling to me. It's fantastic. It makes me very proud to be a member of APFA and say that that's a very important integral part of what I do. So I want to just make sure I live with that gratitude to you and all your team. You always have fantastic people there and you always help us and keep us accountable, which is great too. So you are a very big part of that, and I appreciate that part of what you offer to us.
Chris, I appreciate that, and I thank you. It's an honor to have you today. As I tell people for years, the easiest thing in life is to create a scalable system. The toughest thing in life is to create a great attitude, to create a guy like you, Chris. So,
thank you.
Praise to you and your family for, you came. As I said, like so many of our others, we've got rooms full of people like that at our program. People who come with a great skill set and attitude. All we're doing is helping them build capable systems that are scalable behind that. So, Chris, thank you for your time today. I'm sure a lot of others will appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 5 Star Tips. For show notes, please visit www.theapfa.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And don't forget to sign up for our email list. For more information on the Academy of Preferred Financial Advisors, please visit our website at www.theapfa.com. That's www.theapfa.com. Or give us a call at 866-866-0472 with any questions you may have.